Op 20 januari 2017 begon Donald Trump zijn werkzaamheden als 45ste president van de Verenigde Staten van Amerika. Al gauw werd duidelijk dat zijn uitspraken en beslissingen met gemengde gevoelens werden ontvangen. Aan de ene kant mensen die hoopvol kijken naar de toekomst en aan de andere kant mensen die bang zijn dat hun veiligheid en vrijheid door Trump zullen worden aangetast. In deze reportage, die we in 2 delen uitzenden, kijken we naar wat de eerste 100 dagen van Donald Trump, de machtigste man van de wereld, hebben betekend voor mensen in Amerika en de wereld.
I'm going to this inauguration to see the transition of power.
My hope is that he can change his tone and unite a country. My fear is that it doesn't, and that we continue to be a divided country.
This is not the year for us to sit down and watch. We're going to be delegates. We're going to the convention. We're going to the inauguration.
As an American, I'm all for a peaceful transition. But there's a nice way to do stuff, and there's a Donald Trump way to do stuff.
We don't approve of Trump and his ways, but at the same time, he's still going to be president either way.
Are there concerns? Yeah, but I'm not going to be sitting behind the president scared to death.
We're going to take this thing all the way.
Trump! 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 Not hate! Makes America great! Love! Not hate! Makes America great!
The idea for the project came, I think, from a deep sadness. I knew at that time I was going to go to the Women's March in D.C. I realized that as an LA girl, I'd be very cold. And I thought, well, you know, like, maybe I could knit myself a hat. I'm such a beginner, though. I figured if I could knit this hat, anyone could. And in that moment, I could just really see this sea of pink happen. If it's not just like a beanie with a pom-pom, like a classic hat, it's a little different. And of course, the wordplay with pussy was like too much to ignore.
And this is protection of the nation from foreign terrorist entry into the United States. It's big stuff.
What does that say? What type of message are we sending to our allies around the world?
A number of people with valid visas got on board a plane before the executive order was issued, and when they got off the plane, they were detained.
Refugees are welcome here, no hate, no fear. Refugees.
I understand one's been released, but there's still several people that have been detained.
All of these people here are just attesting to the fact that what they're doing is not right.
This is un-American, it's unconstitutional, it's illegal.
We'll do this for as long as it takes. This is our country.
We have about 40 to 50 lawyers right now at the airport. About 25 are inside, and the rest are deployed at the different terminals that we know there are incoming flights from.
So my dad told me, isn't it better to come earlier? I said, no, it's not going to happen. It's the United States of America. They can't do that. But see, it happens now.
A federal court in Brooklyn granted an emergency stay for some affected by President Trump's executive orders regarding a refugee ban.
Thank you very much.
You guys have a good day.
I love them.
All right.
I love you. Thanks. And
jobs and millions of dollars lost because 2 power stations are closing down.
Every day I get up around 5 o'clock, get myself ready for work. I work at the Dayton Power and Light Kiln Station. I've been there pretty much my whole adult life. I started up there right after I turned 21 years old. The power plant's pretty much all I know. I'm 56 years old, and I'm going to lose my job here in around 14 months. And I'm not sure what I'm going to do. It's just so scary to think about having to go to another job. I mean, whether it's no disrespect to McDonald's, because I'll work at McDonald's if that's what it takes to get health insurance, but I don't know how I'll be with the public after working in such a close setting in a man's world. It's going to be a lot different for me. It's just really sad because I thought the beginning of my life would be here and the end of my work life would be here. I'm too young to really retire. I'm not going to have any health insurance, and I don't have anybody to lean on. It's just me. We were told in November when they announced that the plant was closing that Trump couldn't save us. So I don't believe he can. I believe it's too far gone.
I'm Jamie Dimon. I'm the chairman and CEO of J.P. Morgan Chase, and I was recently named the chairman of the Business Roundtable. I've always deeply believed that collaboration between business, government, civic society is the way to come up with the answers and solutions to the problems that this wonderful country has. I've only been chairman for a short period of time, but this new administration, not just the president, but all the folks who work with have been very responsive. Of course, there's some backlash for that I get, including for a little bit from my children, but people get this huge confusion that somehow because you're trying to help your government, you're supporting all of the policies. I don't think anyone supports all the policies, and the good news for you all is that the ones we don't support, we've been pretty vocal about. Having collaboration, working together is the way to fix the ills of the country. I did it for this president, I did it for President Barack Obama, I do it for anyone who's in that office.
Our classic Gallup job approval rating is one question. Do you approve or disapprove of the way blank, whoever happens to be president, is handling his job as president of the United States?
We're just very early on into the presidency, and I think we have to give him a chance. I think it's great that he has chosen to stir things up and that we're not doing things traditionally, because obviously traditionally doesn't work. And I think that he does some little bit questionable things, but I think in the end his motives are in the right direction.
I, Jeff Sessions, do solemnly swear.
On February 9th, the president swore in Attorney General Jeff Sessions, then signed 4 executive orders designed to look like he was getting tough on crime. One called for the creation of an anti-drug smuggling task force that already exists. Another created a succession plan if the Attorney General dies, and the 2 people below him also die. Trump likes executive orders. So far, he's issued 29. A few could have a real impact, including the travel ban, despite being blocked in federal court. But for the most part, they're just show business.
Get ready, everybody.
Trump has signed orders encouraging businesses to hire American, ordering up a report on trade deficits, and establishing a task force on rural prosperity. Executive orders can get attention, but Trump isn't using them to make actual policy. For that, he turns off the cameras and pivots to the little-known Congressional Review Act. The CRA allows Congress to get rid of government regulations that it doesn't like, provided that it acts within 60 legislative days. Because the Trump presidency is still so young, the CRA's time window reaches back into the last administration, letting Trump and Congress erase Obama-era regulations. The catch? Once rules are overturned by the CRA, they can't be easily reinstated. One CRA vote deleted a rule requiring oil companies to report when they make payments to foreign governments. Another CRA broadens states' ability to impose drug tests on the unemployed by striking a rule that state unemployment compensation agencies can only drug test people whose jobs normally require drug testing, like flight attendants or armed security guards. Other CRAs have eliminated a prohibition on coal companies dumping into streams, a directive requiring companies who drill on public land to contain their carbon emissions, and a regulation that asks government contractors bidding on new contracts to disclose any recent violation of law. Until this year, the CRA had only been used once since its creation in 1996. Trump has used the law 13 times. He can continue to target Obama rules until early May.
My name's Andy Puzder. I was Donald Trump's first nominee for the position of Secretary of Labor. When I got the phone call, I was at a hotel in Washington, D.C. getting ready for my hearing. The first phone call was a discussion about the fact that the leader didn't think he had the votes. And despite my aspirations and desires and my willingness, I was not going to be the next Secretary of Labor. Well, I was disappointed. I really felt that, somebody who started out scooping ice cream and cutting lawns and painting houses and busting up concrete with a jackhammer, playing in bands, working at a music store, and ended up being a successful CEO of a major company. I really felt that my whole professional career I'd been training for the position of Secretary of Labor. Well, I didn't learn much about government. I learned a lot about politics. I learned that you would, even to the extent that you think that the truth is going to matter more than the narrative that the other side can create, you're probably deceiving yourself.
I'm Roger Stone, New York Times best-selling author and pundit. I've been a political activist and a Republican political consultant for almost 40 years. I think I may be under surveillance from the NSA, actually the FBI, at the direction of the NSA, based on this false charge that I have somehow colluded with the Russians to aid the election of Donald Trump. The Smoking Gun fake news site published the fact that I had a direct message exchange with Guccifer 2.0, the hacker, who we believe was responsible for the original hack of the DNC document. I'm happy to show you the direct message exchanges between Guccifer 2.0 and myself today. That is the full and total exchange between Guccifer 2.0, who is not a Russian hacker, and me. On August 14th, I comment on his being reinstated to Twitter. I send him a retweet. Says I'm a great man, offers to help me in any way he can. I did not respond to that. He sends me the link to a public website that has a turnout model for the Democrats in the presidential campaign. And no, I did not pass it on to the Trump campaign or anyone else. That's it. Certainly doesn't constitute treason or collusion. No one in their right mind would be involved in espionage on Twitter. It's innocuous, it's boring, it's banal, and it's insignificant.
Yes, I landed at Houston. It was about 2 p.m. I was interrogated by a young officer, actually. He asked me a lot of things about my parents, about my family. He told me that I wasn't allowed to give a lecture and be paid for this lecture. He said, you will be deported by the next plane. As a whole, I spent about 10 hours in this room for people being checked, so-called vetting. And finally, I was released because it was an intervention of a lawyer from the university. The officer who released me was a more experienced officer than the previous one. And he said to me, the guy who interrogated you was absolutely inexperienced. He didn't know that there was an exception for people giving lectures with a normal tourist visa. What was really disturbing to me, this officer told me, the next time you're coming to the US, you will have your passport, of course, you will have a letter of invitation by a university, but bring with you the excerpt of the US immigration law to show to the officer. So I said, so I have to show a US immigration officer what is the US law. This is absolutely unbelievable.
For the longest time under Obama, I felt like the whole country was telling me how to think, how to act, just trying to tell me that everything I thought was wrong. Being pro-life, pro-weed, pro-Jesus, it was all wrong. And he gave America balls. He gave me the authorization to be who I really am.
I signed a letter along with other law enforcement leaders across the country concerned about the Trump administration's stance on immigration. I'm being forced to, or they're trying to force me to do something that I can't do legally, that I don't have the resources to do, and that I'm philosophically opposed to.
I don't know who Carter Page is. I never had a conversation with Carter Page.
And the other one, Carter Page, I don't even know.
Carter Page, mysterious figure within the Trump orbit who Trump...
You're not a Russian agent.
Obviously not. It's so false that it's hard to know where to even begin.
What was your role in the Trump campaign exactly?
I was a member of a committee. It was a team that was named back in March, and I provided, we got together and had some meetings. I didn't have any major role to begin with, so I think this is something that was used against me, where they just wanted to attack then candidate Trump.
What did that consist of? Did you write briefing papers? Did you ever actually brief Trump?
I never actually briefed him, and in retrospect, I'm glad I never did.
Do you think that Russia interfered in the US election?
I have been so focused on the interference that was done by first the Clinton campaign, but with also, now we know, with the FISA warrant, with the support of the Obama administration. That, to me, had a much bigger impact.
But surely you wouldn't be approving of any foreign government trying to interfere with the American electoral process?
Of course not.
I mean, including Russia?
Yeah, definitely not.
Do you think that Russia is a purely benign actor?
No one is perfect. No human on this planet and no country on this planet is perfect. One of the biggest misunderstandings is a lot of steps that they take, sometimes, frankly, antagonistic steps. It's largely a reaction to steps that have been taken on our side.
Do you think you became a little bit of like an evangelist for this idea over the years that people should look again at Russia?
Frankly speaking, given the fact that there's so few people providing this alternative perspective, sometimes I actually, admittedly, perhaps overcompensate a little bit by trying to factor that in.
Is this something that you're starting to think now, like, oh, okay?
Well, certainly, I've paid a price for that, yeah.
How do you feel Trump's done in the first 100 days with the US-Russia relationship?
I think he has had monumental challenges. And I was always so impressed during the campaign where people created these major obstacles, in almost all instances based on complete lies about his views on Russia and how nefarious and terrible that is. And yet, time after time, he had the political courage and the moral courage to stand up and do what's right.
Since the beginning of this administration, we've witnessed a 50% increase in people asking for help or assistance. Every day we have attorneys that are here in our offices providing free consultations.
Me acabo de casar con una ciudadana, mi esposa es ciudadana, y pues gracias a la tensión política que hay ahorita, nuestra prioridad es que yo arregle mi estatus migratorio antes de que, por alguna razón, me lleguen a encontrar por la calle o me lleguen a querer echar del país.
My name is John Dean. I was Richard Nixon's White House counsel when the arrests at the Watergate occurred. I find it pretty amazing that President Trump claims that his predecessor, President Obama, wiretapped him. First of all, the procedures to do that are so difficult today, unlike during Nixon's time, but the fact that Trump would claim that Obama would use official government channels to do it and think that couldn't be resolved almost instantly is absurd, and it has been resolved, and it was an absurd charge. It was, in fact, just a defamation by one president against his predecessor. Nixon and Trump are two very different men with a lot of similarities. Nixon is a little bit more probably sneakier than Trump, where Trump, I think, is going to be right up front about what he's doing. But their mean streaks and their revenge streaks are pretty visible.
Y estoy aquí en la iglesia porque fue una manera de resistencia pacífica, peleando mi proceso de deportación. Este es mi cuarto. El cuarto es un espacio seguro que me proporcionó la iglesia. Este espacio, aunque es pequeño, es un lugar seguro para mí, para yo poder seguir aquí con mis hijos cuando ellos vienen a visitarme. Que sé que no va a ser por mucho tiempo. Lo más que puede durar son 4 años de la administración del señor Trump y estoy lista para resistir esos 4 años en este lugar, en este cuarto.
Nangawamping ano mo, bravo no kanya, edu anu orelegismo. Nyame nanga pinga yusa ondro peni futuru, manasari futuru, manasari futuru.